Okay, welcome to Mobile Math. So in this lesson, we're going to do factoring polynomials by grouping. Now that term grouping might sound familiar when we were doing factoring the trinomials, and I will show you the connection as we start going through this problem. So with the grouping, one of the giveaways is the number of terms. See, all of these problems here have 4 terms, so that's kind of a giveaway that it's going to be factoring by grouping. And what we want to do is we want to group 2 terms together, and then we want to group another 2 terms together. Typically with these problems, you group the first 2 and then you group the last 2 together, and that will work in most of the cases. Not always, but in most cases. So how do we do that? We're going to group them separated by a plus. So I'm going to take these first 2 terms. So I get 16x to the third minus 12x squared plus negative 12x plus 9. Notice I took this sign with the 12 and we separated by a plus. So now when you look at that, hopefully that looks familiar if you did the previous lesson on factoring trinomials. With the trinomials, remember we would do the x and we would find the factors, and then we would drop down 2 parentheses separated by a plus and put in all of our terms. Well, we're already here, so we didn't have to do that other part. So factoring by grouping, when you have the 4 terms, you basically get to skip that step, and we can just drop right down to the 2 parentheses separated by a plus. So it's actually a little bit easier. So now hopefully you recall, what do we do from here? We want to take out a common factor from here. We want to take out a common factor for here so that both of these parentheses would be the same. So looking at this one, you get 16x to the third minus 12x squared. I got 16 and 12, so I can take out a 4. And then I have x to the third and x squared. I can take out an x squared. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So 4x squared. And that's going to leave me with 4x and then minus 3. So now I want to take something out of here that's going to leave me with a 4x minus 3. Now you might already recognize that these signs are opposite. So if I want to fix that, I want to make sure I take out whatever factor, I make sure it's negative. Then I'll change the signs. So if I take out a 3, that'll give me the numbers that I want. Take out a negative 3, that'll give me the signs that I want. So I take out a negative 3, and that leaves me with 4x minus 3. And now we're ready to group. So put these 2 together, and you get 4x squared minus 3 times 4x minus 3. And then we are good. Of course, you can multiply this out and make sure you get this right here, and it would work. You would see that. All right, so let's look at number 2. And with number 2, we want to make sure that we check for a common factor. I'm not even sure if I mentioned that in the first one, that you always want to check for a common factor first. I knew this didn't have a common factor, so I might have skipped that, but always check for a common factor first, because if you have it, you want to take that out. So looking at number 2, you got 15, 5, 120, and 40. Those are definitely going to have a common factor, at least 5, because of the way the numbers are, the 5, 5, 0, and 0. And that's exactly what we're going to want to take out. So I'm going to take out my common factor of 5. That's going to leave me with 3x to the third plus x squared plus 24xy plus 8y. Remember, you're just dividing all these by 5 to see what's left over. You can, of course, check your answer here. 5 times this gives me 15x to the third, 5 times this, 5 times this, and so on. Take your common factor, like always, circle it, and you want to drop it down so you don't forget about it. You want to drop it down so you don't forget about it. Now, we're going to group our terms together. So I'm going to drop and group these first 2 together, separated by a plus, group the second ones together. And now I want to be able to take something out of here and take something out of here so the parentheses are the same. So from this factor right here, I could take out an x squared. And that would leave me with 3x plus 1. Remember, if you take out the whole thing, you divide x squared divided by x squared is 1. Make sure you put that there. Now look here, what can I take out of here? It's going to leave me with a 3x plus 1. Well, I could take out an 8 and I could take out a y. So I take that out. That leaves me with 3x plus 1. So now we can go ahead and group those together, bring down your common factor, and that would be x squared plus 8y times 3x plus 1. And if you multiply this together, you would see that you get this up here. All right, so let's look at number 3. And we can look for a common factor first. Got 9, 28, 12, and 21. 3 looks good for these, but then number 28, it doesn't work. So I don't have a common factor. So then you might say, all right, let's just go ahead and group. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to group the first 2 down here. And then I'm going to group the second 2 right here. So we want to take something out of here and take something out of here so we get these parentheses to be the same. So you're looking and you say, all right, well, I can take out an x, get 9y plus 28. Well, now you're looking here and you might already see there's a problem because I'm never going to get this to equal this parenthesis. So what happened? Well, this is one of those problems where we're going to need to regroup this a little bit. We're going to need to change these terms around in order to make it work. So I purposely did that to show you that it doesn't always work where you can do the first 2 and the last 2. Sometimes you have to rearrange the terms in order for it to work. So I'm going to erase this because we don't want to do that anymore. And let's see what we can do here. So if I take this first, this 9xy, and remember, there could be a number of different ways that you can regroup these or move the terms around, and it'll still work. So you just want to find a way that's going to work. In other words, which 2 terms can you put together here? Which 2 terms can you put together here so you can eventually take out a common factor and get those parentheses to be the same? So I'm going to rearrange these right here. I'm going to take this term, put it with this one, and then I'm going to put these 2 together. So I'm going to separate this by a plus. So then the question my students will always ask is, well, how do you know to do that? Well, I'm kind of looking at these terms and thinking ahead, well, what can I take out that would potentially give me what I need? I could take out a y here, and that would leave 1x with this term and no x here. If I take out an x here, that would leave me with no x here and then just an x term here. And then I have the 9 and a 21, and then I got the 28 and a 12. If I take out a term here and take out a number here, I'm getting close. So it's at least something to try. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but that's the process. Sometimes it's a little trial and error. So I'm going to look here, and like I said, I could take out a y, but also I could take out a 3. So take out a 3y, and that's going to leave me with 3x plus 7. Now hopefully I could take something out of here that'll leave me with a 3x plus 7. Well, we already said we could take out an x, and then with 28 and 12, I can also take out a 4. So if I take out a 4x, that'll leave me with 7 plus 3x. Now, students look at this, 3x plus 7 and 7 plus 3x. Hopefully you recognize those are the same. Those are equal. You can rewrite it if it makes you feel better. You can just rewrite the whole thing just so you have it that way, which is fine, or you can just go right from here and group and pick one of these. But these are both plus, so of course if you flip them around, commuter property, they're going to work. So now I can group this together, and that gives me 3y plus 4x times 3x plus 7. Now, when my students do problems like this, they might have these terms in different order, like 4x plus 3y and 7 plus 3x, and they ask me if that's the same answer, and of course it is. So this is just the way that I set it up, and then your answer is right here. If you multiply this, you will get this term right here. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this lesson. There'll be more lessons to come because there's plenty of factoring, and you can check that out on my YouTube channel at Untitled Math. And like my first period students used to say, make smart choices. See you next time.